We are going to have each of these executives actually introduce themselves in a minute here. Yeah, maybe why don't you sit over there? Yeah. Charles, maybe here. Yeah, Luis, maybe go and here. Yeah. Great. That's a great start for our session here. And what we are going to do is I'm going to ask each of these actually executives who are joining us to introduce themselves and then maybe talk about one thing that you are doing on your journey to digital transformation. One thing that your company is in the process of doing, or maybe you have done it, and so forth. Maybe Billy, we could start with you.
Sure. So I'm Billy Barton. I'm the Global Operations Technology Director at Dow, which means basically I have accountability for our manufacturing technology support, including our Industry 4.0 efforts to make better use of our data within operations and supply chain and logistics. You ask about one of the things that we're doing. I think the way that we would look at and describe Industry 4.0 or digitalization is it's an emerging set of tools. It doesn't change our objectives in the end. We still want to drive safety, we want to drive productivity higher, we want to drive our reliability higher. So this is an emerging set of tools to help us accomplish those business objectives. I think it's very easy to become enthusiastic and enamored with the fact that we're all doing digital. The fact that we have 900 people here in the room, and when the biggest ARC conference ever says that there's interest in this technology. But the fact is we have to make sure we keep an eye on what is the final objective, which is value generation for our company. I think if you look at our strategy, especially within the manufacturing environment, we're focused on a number of areas around the application of data analytics. We generate multiple terabytes of data per day in Dow. We actually use very little of that to make data-driven decisions. We have a lot of people looking at data. We have a lot of people correlating data between multiple enterprise systems, process historians. So one of our biggest challenges and one of the things upon which we are focusing most on today is the connectivity of heritage data systems to allow our engineers and operators to have greater visibility. So analytics, robotics, we're focusing a lot on robotics and the application of those tools to drive our safety programs and enable our operations to be more productive. Also around the use of mobility tools. I think there's a lot of opportunity with emerging technology and mobility, especially in our industry where we're dealing with highly hazardous, electrically classified, explosion-proof areas. There's still much work to be done to validate and harden those tools for those sorts of environments. We're spending quite a bit of calories on delivering new, robust mobile tools for our operations. I'll stop there.
Excellent. Could I ask a couple of ARC folks, Alan, could you maybe get to somebody, okay, there we have a couple of mics there, and please, think about your questions and get ready for questions. I would say, this year we really have a truly a global panel with us. And we have a gentleman, all the way from India, and we have a gentleman with us from Brazil. But I really want to thank them for coming and joining us this morning. Maybe let me ask you, Luis, next, maybe you could introduce yourself and again maybe talk about one thing that your company is doing and your journey toward digital transformation.
Sure. My name is Luis Barreto. I run the enterprise architecture team in IT, and our focus is to establish the industrial IT framework for the company in order to have a common language and be able to talk to the other teams in the same terms, because as we know, we have a lot of terms going on, a lot of buzzwords like IoT, advanced analytics, and robotics, automation, and this is very difficult sometimes to coordinate between different teams. We are a global company. We operate 10 ports, we have 24 mines, we have 4 railroads and 70,000 employees in 10 countries. So it's really difficult to coordinate all of this and to have a common language. So if you don't establish a baseline and a foundation to do what we need to do, it's going to be really difficult, because everybody wants to do their own innovation projects. And we cannot do that because, as Billy said, we have terabytes of data being generated by different systems in OT and in IT. And this data has to be coordinated, and it has to go to a common place. Otherwise, we cannot do inference. We cannot do analytics. We cannot do machine learning on that. So right now, Vale is well established in the systems, in the operations. We already have a good productivity. And what we are looking for with the digital transformation path is to be able to gain in efficiency and make more with whatever we have. We want to expand operations. We want to hire more people. On the other side, in fact, we brought a little bit down our resources, so we have to do more with less. And this is our challenge right now. We are running 4 big programs on digital transformation in 4 different areas. In Mozambique, with coal, in base metals in Canada, and 2 big transformation programs in North and South corridors in Brazil. And each of those projects, they have been defined together with the business users, including automation, maintenance, IT, operations, everybody together. We did some processes like design thinking process, brainstorming, and so on, to be able to outline where are the problems, what are the big pain points for them, and how we can increase their productivity, the operational efficiency, the maintenance efficiency. So we are working from the bottom up with that, creating the foundations, but the definition has to come from the bottom, from the top down. So right now we are doing that, and it's been very successful until now. We'll start delivering results by this year, and I hope you'll have a lot of gains with this digital transformation path.
Thank you. Charles?
Good morning, everyone. I'm from a faraway place called Orlando. The director of the Smart Cities program in Orlando, you don't see my photo there. For context, Orlando is a city about 300,000 in the central city, metropolitan area about 3 million, but we have over 68 million visitors to Orlando each year. So on any given day, 1/3 of the people in the Orlando area are visitors. Then you look at busy times such as Christmas and the 4th of July, Independence Weekend, Thanksgiving, and so on. 1/2 of the people, roughly, in the Orlando area are visitors. That's a very, very important thing to us, especially for public safety, because we want to make sure there are no bad stories on TV and in Tokyo, Paris, Rio, Sao Paulo, London. So public safety is a huge thing for us. And so most of the folks who do public safety are trained to catch bad guys, help to try to avert crimes, and so on. But with our Smart Cities program, we're trying to help them bring technologies to making their lives easier, making their work better, and making our entire region safer. So we are trying to use some of the things that our IT people are doing, along with our transportation folks. The foundation of Smart City being communications, information communications technology. We're trying to use those technologies, information communication technology solutions across the board, and not just in our IT area and in our transportation. That's doing fabulous things with that technology, but trying to bring it to public safety as well. Try and have them all work together, mature our communication system, make it more reliable, redundant, resilient, because things will go wrong. So we need to make sure it's very resilient, grow the capacity of it, lower latency, get broader band communications and so on, so that we can facilitate cutting edge technologies. Orlando is on the front lines of trying to make sure that we avoid terror threats and so on in America. And we want to bring these technologies that are used in other areas to support public safety, so that as you move around our wonderful city and our wonderful metropolitan area, you don't even realize the great efforts that are being used through computer-aided dispatch and new versions of recognition software and the like seamlessly, and in coordination with non-traditional partners in IT, in fire rescue, and elsewhere. So we have a comprehensive smart city program, but we're focusing primarily first on public works, transportation, and public safety to make sure that we have the best visitor experience for all the folks who are coming to Orlando, that we make Orlando livable for the people who are here, and we enhance the work experience and make it really enjoyable for the people who have to ensure these services.
Yeah. Thanks. I really want to thank Charles agreeing to join us at the last minute. We had a cancellation, and also we learned as Orlando is really on its way to becoming smart city, so they are doing a lot of things. So I think we can also learn from you, Charles, what kind of things you're doing. Okay, let's move on to Bala.
Hello. Very good morning. I'm Balasubrahmanyam. You can call me Bala. I'm working as CIO for upstream business of Reliance Industries. So my colleague Matt could not make it at the last minute. So it's a great conference. It's a privilege to be here and talking to you all. A brief introduction about Reliance Industries, and it started as a very small company with around $1,000 investment in 1966, and 1977 it went public. At the time the turnover was roughly around $3 million. In the last 40 years it has grown to a company of $50 billion turnover and roughly around $5 billion profit. So I mean, it is a multi-business conglomerate, forays into refining and marketing, and vertically integrated both backward and forward into upstream, as well as retail petrol chain, and also slowly into telcos and consumer retail and healthcare and media entertainment. So now recently it's a big initiative from Reliance Industries. Jio is the biggest digital company initiative business. So I mean, I would like to give you a few numbers, statistics, just to have an idea about the scale and complexity at which Reliance Industries operate. It operates the world's largest refinery with 1.3 million barrel per day crude refining capacity, and it's world's largest producer of polyester, fiber, and yarn. And number second in paraxylene, number fourth in PTA, and number sixth in MEG. So I mean, the amazing growth story, I mean, that is quite impressive. In the last 40 years, it could achieve just because sheer appetite for executing a large and complex project, meticulous planning, and absolutely on track world record executions. So all these things would not have been possible if innovation is not at its core agenda as not its DNA. I mean, it's DNA, Reliance DNA. This agenda is there. So, coming to the relevance to this conference, what we're trying to do in digital transformation per se, and I think we are quite fortunate having a Jio initiative, which is a digital business initiative by Reliance. So a lot of things are happening very fast over there. So hydrocarbon sector straight away take advantage of this, sitting in our own umbrella. So what we did is around 2012-13, we undertook a transformation program called STAR. The STAR stands for Smart Transformation Across Reliance. So what we did is that we set the system of record and system of transactions in place. I mean, there are a lot of in between gaps were there. So our objective was to create an end-to-end digital chain. So mostly try and do maximum possible. May not be 100%, may not be possible, but try to achieve the end-to-end digital chain through this STAR program. So with this initiative, we could put the system of record and system of transaction in place to a greater degree of maturity. So now, with the latest opportunities that are presenting itself in terms of analytics, IoTs, and all those open stack technologies, so we are getting into more of, creating a lot of value through working on system of interactions and system of insights. So as some of our speakers said, lot of data is hidden and lot of data is still yet to be leveraged to get insight out of it. So current focus is how we can use these platforms, microservices, and all those stuff and in creating those insights for the company in this one. But as I just echo what Mr. Billy said, and we are very, at least at the leadership level, we are very clear about all these things you can do. You can experiment, you can ideate, incubate, and implement. All those things are fine, but it has to be, you have to have eye on, either it has to result in safety improvement, either it's a process safety or equipment safety, or it has to result in equipment reliability, or process reliability, or it has to result in the maximizing production, or the last one is improved operational excellence. So at least we have that kind of a target-oriented approach, while multiple initiatives can be conceptualized and executed, but at least it should result in one of these dimensions, improvement of these dimensions. So with that,
Good. Again, I want to thank Bala for pinch hitting for his colleague. Again, at the last minute, Matt was here, but he had to leave, unfortunately, because of a family situation. Let's see if we have any questions out there. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we have a question there. Yeah, please.
Mike Danzig from ArcelorMittal Dofasco. So we have a great diverse panel here. So you're all on your digital transformation journey at different phases there. Maybe each of you could name what has been your biggest challenge in terms of moving forward, things you've had to overcome, or maybe you're still overcoming them there in getting to where you need to go.
Katie?
Yeah, I'll go first.
Just start talking.
Okay. So I'll go first. I think, as I listen to the other panels speak, some commonalities really across the board. I think challenges that we face, again, I'll kind of go back to a mindset of not thinking as digital as a separate component of innovation, but it's really integrated now into really everything that we do. And so any innovation or transformation along our journey is just that. It's integrated in our innovation, it's integrated in our processes, both internally as well as our offerings to our customers. And I think the biggest challenge continues to be getting good data, right? So the ability to either meter or sub-meter, but you have to have a good foundation to get good data so that you can interpret that data and then action what the data is telling you. So I think some of the challenges are collecting the data, knowing what is good data, and then being able to create insight and actions and monetize what you do. So if you can't monetize what you do as a result of having data based on digital transformation, again, we won't monitor it. So I think it's really integrated now from a mindset standpoint into everything that we do. But then the ability to make sure that we have good foundation to get good data so that we can create good action plans.
Sure. So I think a couple of items to your question. One for us is culture change, really driving the culture change from Dow to be a more customer-centric company. Part of our digital journey is to ensure that we have transparency with our end customers, and connecting the data streams from raw material entry into the company all the way down to when we deliver final product. I think making sure that we understand also the value that's captured within the technologies we are attempting to implement. It's easy for our C-suite with the current hype and all of the noise that you see around digital, every day someone has a different company with whom they want us to work, or a different vendor is knocking on the door. I would say my colleagues and I, we probably have 2 or 3 calls per week or day that someone's going to offer us a new solution or new technology. So part of the challenge is making sure we're true to ourselves in terms of the infrastructure we want to implement, how we want to monetize the digital technologies that are being offered, and ensuring that those technologies are going to align with our strategy. And the final one I'll comment on at this point is the workforce, the culture change required, the workforce, the actual educational experience. It's very easy for our newest hires to adapt to technology. They're all used to having their iPhone, their Samsung, or whatever phone of choice is in their pocket, and they can look up any technology at any moment. That's the expectation they have when they come in our gate, in our facilities. That's not the infrastructure we have within the company today. So providing them an infrastructure to stay engaged, as well as in our more senior, more experienced colleagues, allowing them to understand how they should be working differently, can be working differently, and be more productive with the new technologies that are being asked of them to use.
Go ahead, Luis.
I totally agree with you said, and you both said, and it's very important to have a culture, and it's very important to have quality of data. And by quality of data, you have to establish an initial foundation. You have to know what's basic for the company, not necessarily these new technical things that arise right now, but for instance, you have to have a well-established MES system and historian system. Sometimes the basic doesn't work. For instance, video conference for a global company is very important because you save a lot with trips. So VoIP technology, some things that are maybe very basic, they are digital transformation. And you need to enable the users to collaborate better, to have good tools, to make them have meetings, exchange documents safely, and so on. Given that, we have the critical point of making the users believe and the customers believe in what you are doing. For us, we don't have many customers. We sell to big steel companies and big suppliers. So we are not like a retail company that have millions of customers. So the IT area in Vale is basically an enablement area. It's a business support area. So our customers are automation, are maintenance, are operations. These are the guys that really care in the company. And we have it very clear. We don't have this mindset of, oh, we are better, we are this or that. We are just different. I mean, we have to be complementary. I know that I'm the minority here from IT, but we really think that way, and this is a cultural change. On the other side, the digital transformation success is directly proportional to the agreement and with the partnership that you have with the business. If these guys from operations, maintenance, engineering don't agree or don't tell you the problems, and you join hands and try to make it together, that's not going to happen. Forget about it. So that's the culture change that it's very important for a digital transformation program.
Well, by the way, those of you who don't know Vale is the largest mining company in Brazil, and they supply most of the iron ore to a lot of the steel companies around the world. Okay, let's maybe Bala.
Yeah, hello. Our challenge is slightly, kind of different. We are just getting out of a huge capex cycle, around 15-20 billion investment in J3, which is integrated petrochemical complex, and another 50-20 billion at the digital company, Geo. So we are not, it's getting the enough time from the stakeholders to participate and interact and engage, to conceptualize the right use cases, hypothesize it, and take it to a, different, ultimate outcome. So that's became real big challenge. It's almost performing a heart surgery while running marathon. So that's the challenge. I mean, we are working off, I mean, we are forming focused work groups. We are working with the different leadership team, and some of the people we are taking out of their busy schedule, and it has to happen because we can't be waiting because many things are happening on the digital world. So that's the availability of the stakeholders' time is a challenge for us, I mean, which we are trying to overcome.
Charles.
Yeah, so I appreciate the excellent thoughts from my fellow panelists, and I'd offer two quick things. One is changing a culture, across different silos or business units within organizations to understand that they really need to share their innovative thoughts and experiences with others that seem to be doing disparate type of services, so that they can understand how they may end up with something that is an enterprise solution instead of a solution for just one or two parts of an organization, and ensure a solution that's more robust, more cost efficient, and something that's renewing and really constantly addressing the thoughts of their customers. The other thing I would offer is that with a lot of this technology at different levels, there comes some risk because people are offering you technology solutions. They say they have been in business for 10 years and they're going to warrant it for 50 years or whatever. I'm just exaggerating a bit to get you to understand. So a lot of customers, especially municipal customers, are very wary about making big investments. They're looking to share the risk and looking more to services instead of buying the actual solutions. So looking to the services, getting the solution developer to share the risk. We have people who are on election cycles of 2 to 4 years, and they don't want to take on a risk that will get them out of office quickly, and get their customer base, be it their visitors, their business stakeholders, or their citizens who elect them. They don't want to take the risks that get these people very upset. So they're looking for solution providers that have some skin in the game, share the risk. And that's one of the challenges that we are trying to overcome right now.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, we have a question here. Yeah.
Hi, Jim Montague from Control Magazine. I was just wondering if Ms. Cope and some of the other panelists could describe some of the sensing and process control technologies that they're using to build that foundation for digitalization.
Yeah, I think it comes down to, I don't know if I'm an IT person or I'm going to get into a lot of the actual technical discussion around the sensing, but we continue to improve the ability to do real-time monitoring, right? So real-time monitoring where you have instant access to data that's real. So we talked about some challenges of being able to actually meter the data and get the data. I don't know in regards to sensors, right? So there's different types of sensors that you can use from a technology perspective. To me, it's a difference in a combination of off-the-shelf sensors that you can put on a critical asset, right? But then being able to using that data in a platform that gives you visibility, right? That's the area that we're really looking to improve in that IoT space that creates more like a digital twin, right? So digital twin of a critical asset. So for example, for Dow, right, on a critical heat exchanger that you need in order to really fulfill your process from a manufacturing perspective. Without having the data available today in regards to that operation, you can use sensors, but then the ability to use the data from those sensors, feed it through IoT, and create a digital twin of that asset to give you real-time data that's accurate so that you have the visibility. And not only the visibility from a performance standpoint, but then what are those things that can adjust that performance? So now that you have insight that maybe you didn't have before, in a fashion that is assembled in a common place, what are those actions you can take? Now, from our perspective, that would be cooling water chemistry that affects a critical asset performance, cleaning that water so that you don't build scale or corrosion or have any type of film buildup that interferes with that critical production from a heat exchange perspective. So from a technology perspective, it's really about leveraging, getting the data, getting good data, and then leveraging in a platform in a real-time way so that you can adjust in a real-time action that leads to more predictive capability, right? And then eventually leads to preventing a problem from happening. So I'm hoping that answered your question just from a visibility perspective.
Any other? Yeah, go ahead, Charles.
So my forte is transportation and mobility, and very much in the intelligent transportation system space. And I think mobility is going to see probably the most complex array of sensors over the next 20 to 40 years. Right now, we have a team put together in Central Florida, the Central Florida Automated Vehicle Partnership, where we will be testing all kinds of sensors in different types of configurations, different kinds of arrays for the individual pedestrian, including those who are mobility impaired, visually impaired, and so on, transit vehicles, freight vehicles, the automobile, and other types of vehicles. Our approach is to have a complex team that's very diverse. For instance, we have universities on our team that will do simulation and emulation of how these sensors will work independently and in different configurations, different arrays, and so on. Then we will do closed environment testing using NASA KSC and the SunTrax facility that's being built by the Florida Turnpike Enterprise close by. It's going to be the most modern test track facility with a mini city in the middle of it to test different types of mobility sensors. And then we will get to open environment testing after the closed environment testing in city and rural environments for all of these technologies. So we understand it will be a challenge. We have been using sensors in the transportation industry for a long time. With automation coming with mobility, I'm not just saying transportation, but full mobility, full range of mobility. We expect that you will see arrays of hundreds and thousands of sensors needing to work together, needing to make distinctions between which sensors are better making decisions at the edge, which ones are best bringing data back to some central locations for decision making and so on. So we understand we need to simulate, do closed environment testing and open environment testing on hundreds and thousands of arrays of sensors.
Yeah. I think Charles makes a terrific point. Most of the plants obviously have lots of sensors already installed. Now, most of the cities are starting from scratch. They have to be adding lots of sensors. So I think Charles' point is excellent. Billy?
Sure, I would say, as you stated, Andy, we in the process industries are fortunate. We have had and continue to have multiple sensors already on board. We went through a huge stage of automation 40 years ago. We're still living on the benefits of that. We have sensors that are hardwired and giving us much data. We had Katie commented on the cleanliness of the data or the availability of the data. I think the future for us and when we look at sensors is three points I'd make. One, I'm looking for sensors that are easy to install, that are wireless and capable, powered for a long time, that don't require the infrastructure that a hardwired cabled sensor might, that will allow us to replace routine tasks that our operators might do. For example, checking on the mechanical integrity of a pipe or a plastic pipe somewhere. We can ping that sensor every 5-6 seconds. Hey, I'm still here and everything's okay. That's all you need to know. Second one is sensors on our supply cargo vessels, tanker trucks, rail cars, giving us real-time information as those products are en route, so we understand how our customers are utilizing those, how we are protecting the society and environment as those products are being transported. And the third one you may not think about, especially for this audience, is the ultimate miniaturization of sensor technology so that we can put it on mobile robotic platforms to be able to use those equipment for inspection, for maintenance, for troubleshooting within our facilities, within our logistics. And if you look at what we've done with space technology and putting fluorescence and spectrometers, elemental analysis on board, we want to be able to have that today for a valuable proposition within our production environments, to use those for eliminating the need for confined space entry, for example, taking our employees out of potentially hazardous environments.
Okay, Bala?
Yeah. I fully agree with Billy's views on downstream side of the sensors in terms of reliability expectation and form factor expectations. In upstream, we have a different challenge. I mean, that too for Reliance, who operates at deep water and ultra deep water. I mean, the reliability of our experience has not been great with respect to the reliability of sensors or temperature sensors or acoustic sensors or something like that. So the cost of intervention to go and replace the sensors is prohibitively high that you almost forget, I mean, the value proposition is lost at the beginning itself. So maybe in the shallow water and onshore, it's quite, still make the cut, but maybe we are really looking forward for sensor ecosystem to mature, whether it can really improve the reliability on the deep water and ultra deep water, basins. Thanks.
Okay, good point. Bala comes from upstream oil and gas. So for them actually, yes, we are still looking for good sensors. Yes, go ahead, Luis.
Excellent question. We have a situation at the mining companies that in many times we are in a very remote location. We don't have infrastructure, public infrastructure or networks that we can use. And if we can, sometimes they are not so cost effective. When we talk about sensors that have to be replicated hundreds or thousands of times, let's say a temperature sensor on a roller for a conveyor belt, or a flow water meter, or something that you put in a well that we have a lot. So this is a real situation, a business case for us, because we have a lot of demands for this. And one technology that I would say that I'm very excited about is the LP1. So it's the low power one networks. Today we can implement them in different technologies. We have LoRa, we have Sigfox, we have LTE-M. Unfortunately in Brazil we don't have, we are almost concluding the certification of the LoRa and Sigfox. But we are about to establish a private LP1 network for the company. So this is going to be very important to enable a lot of sensing that otherwise cannot be made because it's not feasible to spend, I don't know, $2,000 or $5,000 in sensing something that is not so important in terms of cost benefit. So we need to spend $100 or less to put those devices. And those devices have to sometimes rely on a small battery and work for a year or more. So this is where the LP1 networks come. And of course, they won't solve all the IoT situation, but they will solve a good part of it. Even more if you are in remote locations without any infrastructure at all. So I would add this technology to it.
Yeah. Just to add what these gentlemen mentioned, in fact, actually, we need to invest more in sensors. There is a need for more sensors for difficult environments, like mining, and subsea, and so forth. The second point, I think we need to bring the cost of the sensors down. As you are adding more and more hundreds and thousands of sensors, we need to make the sensors a little more inexpensive. And hopefully as the volume goes up, the price will come down. So there is actually big need, and I wish we would be making more investments to develop new sensors. And we need actually the more companies, in fact, making investment. I don't think we are making enough investments in developing new sensors and so forth. Yeah. Okay, I think we have a question here.
Yeah, I'm Jay Jeffries with Stratus Technologies, and as a vendor, I love talking about this great technological journey that we're all on. But it occurs to me that maybe we should ask about how we make sure that all this stuff that we're putting in does something that ties to the needs and the successes of the people. How can we make sure that it's not sometimes getting in their way? And what have been your experiences? What can go wrong when we overwhelm people with lots of data coming from all over the place? And how do we make sure that they can collaborate and be better as a team and as an overall enterprise, and not just have cool stuff on my iPhone?
Well, maybe I'll put it another way. What are we doing to train, educate
Big part of it,
our
yes, sir.
employees to really use all of this technology and so forth? Maybe go ahead, Bill.
Sure, I would. Look, for our operators, number one requirement is it has to work. If you give them a platform that is unreliable or unstable, or that they have to reboot every shift when they go do an operator round, you can forget it. They're not going to accept it. They're going to walk away from it. So whatever we implement has to be robust, and it has to be stable. It has to be relatively consistent in how they do their work. I think it's up to us as leaders to make sure that we provide them with a tool and a capability that enables them to deliver their expertise and not hinder their productivity. In terms of the training, I think there's several tasks ahead of us as an industry. One is we need more highly educated operations staff, whether that be hands-on education through apprenticeships, such as we're doing with our apprenticeship program, or if it's through additional training and education, working with our university partners to ensure that the engineering curriculums adapt and incorporate the types of skills, the data analytics and statistics required of engineers to be able to handle lots of data that's coming in. And to your point about overwhelming them, we need to make the user interface such that they don't have to see 1 million data points live. Right? All they need to see is that things are okay, or if things are not okay, and then to be able to delve deeper into, why is it not okay?
Yeah, go ahead, Luis.
Excellent question. In fact, for us, it's a journey. You cannot prove IoT results in a big bang strategy. It's not possible to achieve that. People will really get overwhelmed with that. So what we do is establish some key wins that will help sell the technology. So we'll do that, we'll make it work, it will make it sustainable, and that's why the foundation is important. It cannot be done in different ways for every and each project. If you use some specific piece to do the work, set this piece as your foundation and reuse it. That's the better option, because it's more cost effective, and it's going to be easier because in the second project, people will be already used on how to do it and what to do. And of course, you have to establish operations to maintain it. So once you deliver small results, you'll be able to convince the team, make users aware and more prone to accept the new technology, and convince the executives that investment is a good investment and it's going to generate return. So this is what we are doing there. We are doing small pieces, small pilots, putting that to work in a specific site, of course already with an established architecture. And so whenever this is accepted and people do a thumbs up for us, then we go and roll out this to other sites. This is the strategy that we are following.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's a great question. So, I mean, you are a technologist sitting outside the enterprise. We are technocrats sitting inside the enterprise. We also face the same challenge. I have a different take on this, actually. See, as Andy rightly said, we have to start familiarizing the potential of these technologies to the business guys, because this technology has moved away from enabling business to evolving new business models. So technology has started disrupting the business model. So I think as business guys should come out and look at this potential of these technologies, a combination of these technologies, what way even they can transform the business model itself. So that's the way I know. I mean, then naturally, then demand supply, the whole thing fall in place. So I don't think while technology can still be an enabler and addressing a business objective, it is high time that business guys start looking at the potential of the technologies and innovating their business models.
Charles, obviously, as you are trying to become more smart city, I'm sure, what are you doing as you are bringing more technology in-house to educate your folks?
So I've been in the intelligent transportation system space for over 20 years, and we've learned a very valuable lesson. We've got to stop looking at the technology first and start with the stakeholders, internal, external stakeholders. That's where it has to start. Otherwise, you're giving people toys, and those toys may include features that some of them may never use. I'm trying to make it simple, get real with this. So whether they're your internal stakeholders or external stakeholders, you need to start with them first. You need to have a dialogue that's ongoing, not just at the beginning, but ongoing through your solution development and ongoing as you're looking at new generations of your solutions to make sure that you are addressing the things that they need. They're getting the information that they need in a concise, easily understood way, and that you're not spending on something that's not quite as important. That will also give you cover when you do have hiccups or things go wrong. Because if your stakeholders are with you and you've had an ongoing dialogue all along the way, things will go wrong and they can give you cover. So I'll use a very, very simple, this is a very technical group, but I'm going to use a very, very simple example. So a parking system, we introduced a very sophisticated parking system in our downtown Orlando. People being routed with the most modern routing technology for parking and the most modern payment systems. And folks were getting very upset when we were developing it, thinking, hey, you are going to jeopardize our revenues if you are going to allow a parker now to get notifications on a cell phone or on their watch or whatever that their meter is expiring and they'll be able to use their watch or cell phone to top up the meter. We're going to lose millions of dollars in revenue. Thankfully, we had engaged the stakeholders ahead of time, and the business community said they were doing the math and they believed even though we would lose millions in revenue, we had more than make up for it. That gave us cover. We started losing revenue, but shortly thereafter, even though we lost the parking fine revenue because people in meetings were getting notifications on their phones and watches, all of a sudden it became more conducive to do business in a downtown because you were getting these notifications. And so the net revenue went through the roof, right? So that's a really simple thing to tell you, but you've got to engage your stakeholders, understand what it is they want, what direction they want you to go in, and when you do make mistakes, you have cover because you've been engaging them all along.
Excellent,
Yeah.
excellent point. Go ahead, Kate.
And I'll just conclude by agreeing that you really do have to have that internal buy-in. At Ecolab, it really started with our leadership that this was a critical aspect in regards to advancing our customer offering, and so it's an investment. We just invested in what I'd say a world-class water university at our Chicago, Illinois campus, and 50% of that university is dedicated to the ability to understand data and interpret data from a customer perspective that leads to output. And so our challenge, and you hit it right on the head, is that 50% of our workforce is customer facing in remote areas, global. And so getting everybody aligned in regards to the importance of the data, and one, that they need to trust the data, and that actually will lead to an impact, is challenging enough. And so it really did start at the top at leadership to invest in what we call university, where it's not just focusing on chemistry, which is really our bread and butter from a delivery perspective, but the importance that data also then delivers. And that's 50% really of our training curriculum with our sales force.
Excellent. I think we have a question over there.
Yes, hi, Anya. Hi, Michael Canellis over at OSIsoft, and I want to follow up on that, getting the business people involved on this. what kind of ROI do they expect? Is it fairly open-ended that they know digital transformation is necessary and they must invest, or are they going to you saying, this sounds fantastic, it needs to pay for itself in a year? And then also, what sort of metrics are they looking at? Is it strictly OpEx and CapEx, or is it similar to what Orlando found, that there's this other metric you can measure it by to actually prove what you've done?
The business community is using metrics that are completely different than what we use in the city. They're using production and attraction data for trips coming to their facilities, and then they're looking for passerby trips, people who are likely to, after they visit one facility, stop by another. They have complex models that they use in business that look at these types of things, and those are totally different than what we look at. So what they're trying to, really, they have ways of measuring what is a vibrant business community. A vibrant business community is a community where, people are coming to treat the business community quite unlike they treat a suburban community or a rural community. They are coming to go to the attorney's office, they're going to go pay their taxes, they're going to go to the bank, they're going for entertainment, they're going for lunch, and they already have sophisticated models that look at these things. And so for our business community, with the parking thing, which is a really simple, very simple example, they looked at how, making something like parking more accessible, a friendlier system, and looking at how you don't tick off people by fining them. They look at happiness quotients, things like that. They have ways of measuring that now. They look at those types of things, and then they extrapolate and they determine that a certain amount of increased commerce will result based on those things. So we have to listen to them, because our metrics, the things we measure, and our standards, our KPIs, totally different from theirs. But they pay the taxes, and they enable the leadership. So we have to start out by listening to them. What is it they want? And sometimes we don't quite hit the mark with them. Sometimes we're off a little bit, but just like in any relationship, if there is ongoing dialogue, you can handle missing the mark, and you can determine then how do you make that adjustment.
Excellent. Any comment? Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, sure. So I would say while there are some intangible benefit that's realized from the technology, it's like any other innovation platform or any other technology investment. It's ROI and profitability gain, customer engagement, employee engagement are clear metrics. I mean, we do look at the wholesale capability. So, for example, with our 2025 goals, which are our sustainability goals, the third round we've promulgated. One of them is computing nature future value for every project we do, whether it's an R&D project or a capital project. So that's the type of metric we look at. We're using data and the analytics to help us compute what is the impact of our proposed projects, our proposed technology implementations on the environment, on society in general. And those are the types of metrics that our leadership is looking for. To your question, does it have to pay for itself? Sure. We're not going to make 5 years of investment and wait another 5 years for value to be returned. The way we've set up our program and the way we're doing our implementations is it is paying for itself along the way.
Yeah, we've implemented a metric system that we call EROI. And it's been a journey, right, as we've been talking about digital transformation, where the E for ROI really originated as an environmental return on investment, right? So impact we're making from either a water, energy, or waste standpoint, and impact back to the environment. But we went beyond that, knowing that it's not just about the environment from a business perspective, a big component of it for sure. But we changed the E to really stand for exponential return on investment. And so we talked about risk sharing. So there's a baseline from a quality perspective that you have to meet quality standards from an ROI perspective, and then a performance standpoint. So there's baseline in regards to just performance, and those are standard metrics from a revenue profitability standpoint. But then taking it one step further and really understanding impact. back from a water saving standpoint, an energy saving standpoint, a waste saving standpoint, which ultimately leads to a profitability metric.
Go ahead, Bal.
Yeah, I think the time has come for business to set aside some amount of budget for experimentation, because innovation, it's all about fail fast and improve fast. But at the same time, I agree with Bill, it cannot go on for 5 years and then all the money down the tube and no return. That's also not acceptable. If you are able to put a business case up front, it's great. But if you are not able to put a business case, we do not know. There could be a latent potential or latent opportunities hiding behind an initiative. So probably we need to be open. At least at Reliance, that culture has started coming in. So as long as you are able to conceptualize a great idea, and there are some kind of people are able to see some kind of potential in it. I mean, not necessarily it has to be demonstrated through a ROI calculation. A shorter period of time, it is incubated and evaluated.
Luis, did you have?
We do have some budget for experimentation and to take risks, to establish, to test some new technologies. I mean, to play around with technologies. We have a lab, we have a digital lab and a digital engineering lab to even create device, assemble them, and do a prototype and take to the field and show to the users what if they give some ideas to improve that. And this of course is a very small part of the budget. But when it comes to projects, even related to digital transformation, we go back to good old ROI, and that's the basic metric that you use. Of course, there are some exceptions. For instance, if you have a situation in environment, for instance, environment is critical to us. Last year we have I don't know if everybody knows or recalls the Samarco accident in Brazil. It was a huge accident, an environmental problem with the dam, and it is half owned by Vale. So it was a huge problem for us, and still is. We will have to invest more than $20 billion in an agreement with the government to be able to recover the river that has been damaged, as well as all the citizens that live in the close to this river. So today it's clear that is very important. So we are talking about monitoring of dams, for instance. That's not going to give an ROI. It has another value. It has a value that you cannot touch, but we have to somehow in this ROI to put a value on that. Maybe based on the fines that we would be taking the risk to receive, or in the shutdown of a plant or something like that. So basically it's ROI with some small exceptions, but we always bring to a value.
Okay. What I like to do is, maybe as we are deploying new solutions, bringing new technologies into our companies, how about some new business models related to ROI? As certainly maybe you could explain, Katie, a little bit your business model. It's no longer that you have to kind of buy the solution. I think there are companies out there, they are willing to partner with you. You can pay them, like all of us are using cloud. We are paying more, maybe monthly subscriptions rather than actually, making a purchase in advance. So we can actually use some new business models to bring some of these newer technologies, into our facilities and so forth. Maybe any of you maybe adopting those. I know, Katie, you probably did.
Yeah, I think, and I don't want to make it complex. I think our obligation to our customers is, if you spend $1, you'll get at least $1 back. Right, so looking at it from really a return on your investment, your minimum is 100%. And so what's new is that we're willing to share in the risk based on utilizing new technology to really understand these gains, right? And so guarantees can come into place in regards to gain sharing or some other type of business model where we, with customers, assume risk based on performance. And so I think that's developing versus just buy this and then take a chance that it will work. It's more of a guaranteed model that you'll get 100% return on your money, and with the objective that it's going to multiply over time.
Anyone else? No? Okay. No. Okay, I think we have a question over here.
My question is to relate to our workforce. If I just divert the question to the audience, who is free who got spare time at the office, back in your, any raise hand? None. Who got a full team of Industry 4.0? I think that's a question I want to raise it, to the panel. What to do with that? This is our main issue. We don't have spare time. Everybody is busy with the maintenance, operation. How to tackle this issue? Thank you.
May I start? I think Industry 4.0, as well as other buzzwords, they are nothing more than a nice word to try to exemplify the situation that we are now. So Industry 4.0, for me, it depends on what you need and the needs that you have and what you want to achieve. Usually, there's no such thing as I'm Industry 4.0 compliant or something like that. What you need to know is, I need a robotic automation process. I need chatbots. It's not about the technology. Chatbot by itself is nothing, but if you want to increase and to the overall attendance of your users by having a chatbot, maybe you spend 100,000 with people answering to the phone and asking basic questions like, what's the status of my service request? What's my ID? How do I ask access for the system? So you can create a chatbot for that and save a lot. So depends on the business situation. What we are doing is to try to address with technology whatever business needs arise to us. Of course, we do some sort of analysis to be able to do the ones that give more revenue to us or save more money or generate a better effectiveness in the workforce or in the equipments. Have equipments turned on more time so that we can have less equipments. So all of these are business demands that we need to address. So if you are addressing your business demands, you are Industry 4.0.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would say from a I guess structure standpoint, it's been a bit of a transformation where we've reprioritized some of our people to really focus, again, thinking about it as an integrated platform with innovation, to really focus on commercial digital solutions in-house. And so it's been somewhat of a transformation from an internal structure standpoint to focus on that. And I would say the second is that we partner with people who are experts in this area. So I'll highlight Microsoft, who I know is a sponsor of this event. And Microsoft has been, a true partner with us to really understand how to leverage the data, how to use, the cloud and Azure technologies or Power BI, right, as tools that we can use to our advantage and understand more and adapt into our innovation processes. True cost, as I talked about, from developing a software tool to really understand water risk assessment. And so we're really trying to reach out and partner with people who are experts more in data so that we can integrate that more into our own internal innovation processes and structure ourselves around that.
Yeah, if I could comment. This is not an Industry 4.0 problem. What you've described is resource limitation. If you go back 40 years to Industry 3.0, when we were implementing process control, DCS, the room probably would have said the same thing. I have nobody to work on the development of those technologies. I have to twice as many people running my plants. I don't have the resources to implement process automation. This is about prioritization and leadership support. If you decide as an entity that you're going to implement new technology, then you have to staff that, either internally or with contingent staff or with partners that you bring in from outside. So this is, I don't see the question you've asked as an Industry 4.0 problem. This is a technology implementation problem of any type of technology.
Yeah. Well, I will add to this. I think it really starts on a whole culture change, the whole mindset. Even when you are doing, operations and maintenance, you are doing them in a, new way, and hopefully you're bringing some of these technologies. They are helping you, hopefully, optimize your operations better. So I think it has to also at the same time, it really has to start from the top. You have to educate all of your management. They all got to actually, one of the biggest questions, in fact, right now, we are getting from our clients is that their people, their management is not ready. Even though CEO may be actually saying, okay, we got to actually secure ourselves and we got to actually move to digital transformation, but all of this middle layer, management, is not ready. So I think some of the companies we are working with, they are trying to actually educate all of their management, what it is, what the mindset. So I think, like Billy said, it's a resource, and it doesn't have to be new resources. It's a matter of actually educating your people, and that's not an easy thing, trying to change the culture and the organization and a company. Did you have anything to add over there?
Yeah, maybe the question is on bang on, not necessarily on Industry 4.0 about the availability of time. In fact, my response to one of the biggest challenges faced is I mentioned it is stakeholders' time. But I think, as Andy said, it's all about raising the awareness and appreciation about the use of potential and what value it can bring to the business. That's where it starts, and he was right bang on. The second layer and third layer, really, that's where the lot of loss in translation happens. So I think maybe on the lighter side, one other way of looking at it is, as the saying goes, if you want to get the job done, give it to the busiest person. So give this digital transformation to the busiest guy, and it will get job done.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to end our session and so forth. More culture change, and we have to really educate the workforce internally and collaborate with our partners and so forth. With that, we have a break. Refreshments are in the next room, and we will see you back in half an hour, 10:30. Please join me giving a hand to our great panelists here.